For centuries, Muslims, Serbs and Croats had lived here together. Now they had to choose a future. Half the Yugoslav republics had gone for independence, and it was time for the Bosnians to decide.
Mi smo sami sebe doveli u situaciju u kojoj više nema zajedničkog života, jer
Possession of Bosnia-Herzegovina traded back and forth for centuries. In 1908, the country was annexed by Austria-Hungary. In 1918, following the dissolution of Austria-Hungary, Bosnia joined 5 other socialist territories to form Yugoslavia. This remained the status quo until the early 1990s. At that point, Slovenia, Croatia, and Macedonia each successively voted to leave Yugoslavia, and this led to war in many of those regions. At that point in Bosnia, 3 main ethnic groups formed the population. Almost half were Slavic Muslim Bosniaks, while Orthodox Christian Serbs comprised just over 30%, and Catholic Croats were 17% of the populace. Serb nationalists within Bosnia were strongly against the idea of their country's independence. At the end of February 1992, when Bosnia voted in a referendum on the subject, Serbs boycotted the vote in favor of creating their own republic called the Serbian Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. However, those who did vote chose to secede from Yugoslavia, and so the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina was declared at the beginning of March 1992. Within a month, the newly created country was attacked by Serbian forces, with support from Slobodan Milosevic's Serbian government and the Yugoslav People's Army. Aside from the desire to claim new territory for Greater Serbia, the Serbs wanted to ethnically cleanse the population of Muslims. Initially, Croats and Bosniaks teamed up in the face of this Serb threat. The infamous siege of Sarajevo began early in the war, in April 1992, when Serb forces took the predominantly Muslim capital city. This 4-year siege resulted in the deaths or disappearances of roughly 10,000 people from the city, including many children. As residents scrambled for basic human needs, they were also required to evade sniper fire while in the streets. 1992 also marked the start of the genocide against the non-Serbian populations of Bosnia. Those groups were intimidated, tortured, and killed, with villages and homes destroyed. Targeted groups became refugees or were held in detention camps. By the end of the year, the Serbs occupied roughly 70% of the country. Croat forces had also shifted from a defensive stance and began seizing land also. This began a war within a war, referred to as the Croat-Bosniak War. That battle overshadowed much of 1993. That year, the UN sent aid to Bosnia, but was criticized for being largely ineffectual in the face of this conflict. By 1994, NATO intervened by launching airstrikes against the Serbs. While this succeeded in ending some sieges, fighting continued. When the Croat-Bosniak War ended that year, those groups re-teamed to fight the Serbs together. As conflict continued into 1995, one of the most violent crimes on European soil since the Second World War took place. In July, the town of Srebrenica was massacred by the Bosnian Serb army, despite being a UN safe zone. Over 8,000 were killed, and more were wounded and displaced. However, this was one of many similar massacres that year. NATO forces again used airstrikes against the Serbs, which helped Bosnian government forces reclaim lost territory. The end of hostilities came soon after. In November 1995, the Dayton Peace Agreement was reached in Dayton, Ohio by the Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian presidents. When this agreement went into force, it marked the war's official end. As stated in the accord, Bosnia-Herzegovina was split into 2 independent states, one Bosniak and Croat, the other Serb. National elections were also called, and a NATO-led peacekeeping effort began. However, much of the population was unhappy with the country's division. Though exact numbers are disputed, the Bosnian War resulted in 25 to 330,000 deaths. It caused the destruction of numerous historic buildings and monuments and created hundreds of thousands of refugees. Atrocities seen during the war included genocide, mass rape, and emotional subjugation. And in the years following the conflict, numerous figures were tried for war crimes.